Nappy TV spoke with Robert DeBitetto, President and General Manager of A&E Network and BioChannel, and John Kamen, Chairman and CEO at Radical Media, regarding documentary storytelling in today's multi-platform world. A&E has set the industry standard for biographical documentaries, the truth of dealing with addiction and real-life homicide investigations, and the behind-the-scenes look at the rock star lifestyle, among other topics. Are the financing models the same for all of these vastly different nonfiction shows?
There's a range. There's a range. I think that obviously the financial result of these programs is directly related to their ratings. So I think that the essential component of the financial model or snapshot to any one of these shows is our belief that they're going to rate well or reasonably well. Having said that, sure, there's some ranges. We find, for the most part, that celeb reality or celebrity-oriented reality, a show like Gene Simmons' Family Jewels, a half-hour show, those tend to have higher cost per segment or cost per hour than an hour format. You know, surprisingly, intervention, maybe not surprisingly, but interestingly, intervention, which right now is the highest rated show on the network in both of our demos, adults 18 to 49 and adults 25-54, is a very economic show to produce, actually, relatively. It's an hour format. It's done in very, as you know, spare, verite, docu format, in that kind of a style. And, you know, so it's a very reasonable show from a financial point of view. And I think a lot of the sort of crime and justice shows, formats like The First 48, we have a great new show that just launched, Manhunters, again, another hour. Well, that's actually two half hours. But those probably fall somewhere in the middle. So there's a range, but I think that for us the key is, you know, always make sure that at least we think the quality is at the very high end, that no matter what genre it's in or the way we choose to tell the story, that the quality and the execution of it is first class. The storytelling has to be great, and we have to be convinced that, at least in prime time, there's significant ratings potential. And if we hit all of those beats, the shows are very profitable.
When it comes to actual production, John, are the days of talking heads dead and gone? And is it possible to serve the advertiser, the producer, and the story without compromising on the consumer experience?
You know, I don't think the days of talking head are gone at all. As long as somebody has something interesting to say and can articulate it well, it's up to us as producers to figure out a format in which it will intelligently be delivered. You know, the concept of a talking head is as age-old as television again in itself. But it's all in how it's formatted. It's all in what perspective that we take. And utilizing a great story and a great story well told in a subject that people might care about, and capturing whoever that individual might be, even if it is a talking head, I think is foolish for us to dismiss. I think the opportunity to create great programming, making sure that it's on a subject matter that somebody's interested in, and programming it in a place that will attract that audience and have that audience appreciate that programming is really our goal. I don't think that we look at that from a brand perspective or from a channel perspective or from a platform perspective. I think it's all about great content and finding an intelligent way in which people can share it with others.
What role, if any, does broadband video or DVD sales play in the financing and productions of these projects?
Well, I think broadband is going to play an increasing role because of the habits of people. I mean, really, it's all become video on demand, and whether it's on a computer screen or it's on your television screen or it's on your phone, the concept of broadband is really video on demand, and it provides both a network or, more importantly, an audience to watch what it is they want to watch when they want to watch it. And from an advertising perspective or from a programming perspective, it really piques the interest of an audience because it really allows them control over the content that they're interested in.
We have found that our franchises have a lot of potential and a lot of viability on so-called new platforms, digital platforms. A&E has always had a very successful DVD business, and season box sets and season sets of all of our franchises do very, very well in DVD sales. Retail sales, go into Walmart or go into a retail store and you'll see our stuff offered up, but also our online store, the A&E store. We have robust sales through our online store, which is a great store. But beyond that, we've seen our stuff really take off on, in particular, iTunes. Both the History store and the A&E store on iTunes are very successful. And we have seen our stuff downloaded. We have robust downloads of episodes of shows that are on our air. We have great season pass orders. So we've seen a lot of pickup of our stuff online. So are those huge contributors financially? Not. They're growing. They're growing. The more traditional DVD sales actually for a successful title can be very valuable. But on iTunes and some of our other online platforms, we're seeing real growth there. So we're very bullish on that. In terms of our own sites, our content, really drives traffic on our show sites and our network sites. So, aetv.com and bio.com. We are seeing great traffic growth year over year on those sites. And of course, along with that comes advertising revenue growth. Certainly display ad, but the real growth engine there is video imps and and pre, mid, and post roll video advertising on our sites. And we've seen really robust growth there. So it's one more way that we're able to amortize the cost of these programs. Obviously, we have a ways to go. The investment in the infrastructure, whether you're A&E or the big companies, the big media companies, we're all seeing pretty much the same thing, which is where you have to invest in the creation of these digital platforms, and you have to do them well because you have to get traffic. Otherwise, you're not going to see anything. And then you hope to grow that, and then grow the revenue over time. So they're certainly contributors. They're a growth opportunity for us going forward, but no question that short term they certainly have their challenges. If you look at them on an isolated basis, as part of the whole pie, of course, it just all adds to the overall model.
Looking forward, Robert, what advice would you give to producers who are passionate about their documentary project and concerned about compromises they may have to make, either in production quality or rights ownerships, in order to get the project financed?
Yeah. I think I was tempted to say something that I think would have come out sounding a little bit flip. Life, and certainly the industry, is full of compromise. And I think that as we meet with and talk to and get to know some great independent filmmakers, one of the things that I've noticed is the filmmakers who I think are most successful, however you want to define that, but I define it as having achieved a body of work that provides them with that's noteworthy, that things that have been in theaters and done well, and things that have been on television and done well, and have developed for them a reputation for excellence, which is kind of what we're all about. I think those that have done that best have figured out a way to walk that tightrope well. On the one hand, if you compromise too much, you run the risk of watering down your vision. And if you do that, the piece may not be very good at all. So that if you just you know, if you allow everybody, if you allow too many cooks in the kitchen, you know, as they say, you can wind up with a watered down piece that lacks the focus and the vision, and then makes it particularly unappealing, I think, for theatrical audiences. On the other hand, if you won't listen to anybody, and you aren't willing to at least allow that somebody else might have a valid point of view with respect to a particular issue, the length of these films is often the subject of conversation. I think the best filmmakers have found a way to walk that tightrope where they don't lose their vision. They are passionate advocates where they think it's important, but they're also willing to allow that somebody else might have a valid point of view, and allow for some compromise along the way in the interest of coming out at the end of the day with the best film possible. And those that do that well, I find that to be very much a part of the art of filmmaking, because it isn't a solitary endeavor. It isn't. It sometimes seems like it isn't. If you're too much one way or the other way, you know, I think you sometimes make life difficult for yourself, and often I think the film at the end of the day suffers as a result of that. Easy to say, much harder to do, but those are the kinds of filmmakers that we look for.
What advice would you offer producers who are passionate about a documentary project and worried about selling out to brand sponsorship or network partners?
You know, I don't think branded content is about selling out to its potential sponsor. I think it's treating it responsibly. I think it's finding a way in that is not insulting to an audience, because I think product placement, for instance, as it has been so abused, has become pretty insulting to an audience. But I think in terms of the integrity of programming as a producer, finding a great story and figuring out what that brand's place is within that story, and how that brand can best serve that story and maintain the integrity of the story is our job. And I don't think that when you're asked to perhaps violate that integrity, you're perhaps crossing the line with the audience. And it's the biggest mistake that we can make as producers, because ultimately we have to create something that audiences are going to appreciate, for that same simple concept of something having been brought to you by isn't flipped or switched off, but is actually turns a consumer on. And that's our job in making sure that we walk that line. And when asked, we sometimes look for solutions that can fulfill a sponsor's needs, but at the same time are respectful of a consumer or an audience, and the quality of that programming.